Another day, another case. This is Jim Reid. Folks around here call me Noire Reid, courtesy of the fact that I still dress like a 1940s detective, despite the fact that it is, well, the 1990s. The 80s are coming to a close, and from the case files of the Malton Police Department, this case was my first. Case file number 1. Slasher Killer. Slasher Killer. Real name, Mike Cunningham. Age, 17. Occupation, serial killer. Modus operandi, kills teenagers, usually in the style of old-school slasher movies. Number of victims during my first encounter with him were 9. Height, 5 foot 1 inch. Weight, 105 pounds. Brown hair, brown eyes. Status, alive. Whereabouts, serving time at Hard Time Prison. Oh, so that's what I'm told, but we'll get to that at the end of the case. Origins. Out of all the people I've locked up over the years, I could say that Mike Cunningham is definitely one of the most sympathetic I ever come across. Mike Cunningham was born on February 13th, 1972. His parents, well, they weren't exactly role models either. Poor kid. His father was an alcoholic, truck driver by trade, though he has secretly done smuggling jobs for the mob. The father then eventually abandoned the family, though eventually was revealed 2 years later that he was killed. He spent most of his childhood being raised by his mother. She wasn't exactly an angel. Other than being a prostitute, she would bully her kid, whip him, beat him. Rumors of even molestation are in there, but has never been proven. He eventually attended Malton High School. A very smart kid, had a bright future, was getting A's in every class except gym. That was the one thing that his mother was actually ashamed of, the fact that he, well, wasn't a man, as she always put it. Just kept getting bullied and bullied, not just at home, but even at school. Well, not everyone at school. Eventually it was the week of the costume ball. And the most popular girl in school, Tracy Ryder, asked him out as to be her date. He was ecstatic. He eventually found this old Halloween costume, as you can see on the screen, everything except the mask that he wore that night. They went to the party together, and it seemed like for once he was finally fitting in. People were treating him differently, and he might have been making friends. For a moment he thought things were starting to turn around, but how wrong he was. Eventually they pulled a prank on him. Just as he soon kissed Ryder, his first kiss. I can't believe this. They dragged the poor kid away, and the football team just beat him nearly to a pulp, and then left him on the side of the road. He eventually made his way home, on which the mother saw the bruises. He said, "You should have stood up to them, been a man." Eventually, after all this torture, abuse, and teasing, he eventually snapped. What was left of Mike died that day, and he became the slasher killer. Due to his loves of the old school slasher films, he 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 managed to refine. I'm sorry. Oh my god, these pictures. Anyway, he eventually found his old costume that he wore. and wanted to plan his revenge. He, met, he even found this old cane, but made sure and then somehow gimmicked it, made it into a sort of knife, a sword even, if you could even call it that. He then found this old gargoyle mask, or whatever mask it's called. I don't really know. He then put it on, and and then spent weeks in preparation, tracking down Tracy. One day she was leaving the movie theater, and that's when it happened. He went and killed her. Her dead body turned up 2 days later. Mm-hmm. The back of a movie theater. Her body was killed like in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre with the body parts all over the place. I think that was what the movie was. This killing shocked the teen public. Eventually, the second killing was John Saxon, the head of the football team, the average jock, rumored to have been involved in dealing drugs to kids and even sexual assault. But of course, these are only rumors, as the school would never want their star jock to actually be convicted of these crimes, because they desperately needed to win the state championship. So they turned a blind eye to his failing grades and abuse to kids. That school turned Mike into a monster. And people like John, the reason why they happened. Eventually, after football practice, John was walking home alone, drinking what looks like a bottle of vodka, until eventually, BAM! Was stabbed with a kitchen knife and was dragged to the front porch of his house. A witness later came forward that night and saw a man in the exact same costume as you saw in the slide below. That was the beginning of when the media caught on to the killings. I found that they were killed similar to slashers. But it wasn't until the third killing where he truly earned his nickname. He eventually went after the school president, a Mel Gogan. He was killed and was one of his many tormentors. Turns out he's pretty much a sex addict, having sex with underage teens mostly. Well, to be fair, he was a teen himself, although it was eventually revealed he was actually 20, which was cut down numerous times. And of course was a drug addict. He was killed in the same manner of Friday the 13th, having a claw hammer or a machete to the face, and in the hand. He was found dead in the locker room. And that's when I was put on the case. By that point, I've spent 6 years working the beat, and they put me on the case. I then checked the crime scenes. Other than the fact of similarities, I realized they all went to the same school. So I went to check around, see if anyone would stand out, maybe possible suspects. And I was shocked what I saw. Bullying happening, teachers turning a blind eye. As I was walking down the hall, I saw these groups of jocks harassing this kid. I then broke up the fight and helped Mike to his locker. Little did I know that the kid I saved from being bullied, or beaten, I should say, because that's really what it was Mike Cunningham. I then found out that all these kids eventually turned who they were. They were the popular. Although the parents spoke highly of them, I got from other students that they were the worst. I kind of almost wanted to support the killer. Like I said, almost. If it wasn't for the killings, well, I wouldn't. I eventually found out they all attended the same party. The one that Mike went to. I found out what happened. I was so disgusted, I brought the remaining kids in. Turns out the only kids that were part of that prank were 6 more. John Lee, another jock. Carl Mendoza, another jock. What's this kid's name? Some kind of, is it Spanish or is it Latino de la Vega? Well, I guess something's starting to change. And of course there was the cheerleaders. Stacy Kickboot, Frances Luciano, some Italian immigrant. I wonder how the hell she became popular. That's new. And Penny Pensiani, really? Many people just call her Pen. Well, that is her first name, so why the hell would that be a nickname as well? I don't know. Weird. Realizing that they were next, they were then put under protected detail. But my captain wanted to really lure out the killer, and so, against my better judgment, against my wishes, I should actually be reporting. They were all taken to a boot camp type institute, like something from Sleepaway Camp, that film. Oh boy. The captain must have thought that this would be an attempt to lure him out. Thanks to the forensic scientist and my friend, Andrew McGee, or as we call him, Abe, because honestly, he has the face of, well, Abraham Lincoln. Thanks to him, we managed to get the killer's profile. Due to the fact that he's been killing mostly teens, and most of them have done very horrific acts, he feels we managed to deduce whoever it is getting payback, and the fact that he must have also suffered mental abuse, and was a huge fan of the slasher films. We also had to quickly run down the costume from the witness, and we managed to find it from a costume shop. We found out that 5 kids had bought it on the same day. But despite that, surprisingly, all 5 could fit the profile. And all 5 did not have any alibis on the times these kids were killed. Everything went that night with all the 6 teenagers in the cabin out of that boot camp. All we did was wait. And wait. And wait. It seemed to drag on. I honestly thought he wasn't going to show up. I then managed, as I was going through the case files, I then realized something. The cane that the killer used in these killings, thanks to the witness, I then realized it was makeshift. And realizing that, I realized it had to have been sort of made by a smart kid. So as a result, I looked at the files. I found out that only 2 fit the profile. Mike and another kid that was bullied. Jack Mutiani. Mutiani? Jeez. No offense to you Italian students, but just saying. It's really, 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 really hard to really pronounce your names. Realizing that, I then went to the remaining teens and said I might have a possible clue, and revealed the 2 names, see if they recognize anything. Then they told me that, well, they knew Mike. And he came to the party. One jock was laughing. Already, I did not like this guy, so I asked him, "Hey, buddy, want to say something?" He replied back, "Yeah, we did this crazy prank. We stripped him of his clothes and then hazed him so much and threw him on the street." Already, I did not like the word, and I asked him, "What the hell is hazing?" And he said, "Well, it's a teen thing." I'll say, "Enlighten me." He just refused to answer. Eventually, I went all tough cop. I grabbed him by the collar and slammed him against the wall. "Tell me!" Then he finally said, "Hazing is a form of beating up, almost sexual at times. Already I was disgusted and threw him straight to the ground. You bastards. Why would you do that? He said it was funny. I'm like, really? You beaten the guy to a bloody pulp. Oh, for the love of God of me, explain the fucking joke. And just as that was about to happen, a car went straight through the window, rolling over the jock, killing him instantly. Already the five of us looked forward, and he came out. Already slapped the girl in the face, and then stabbed that cane through her eye, instantly killing her. Forced it out, looked at us. He looked at me and said, Detective, you can move on. This has nothing to do with you. I then quickly whipped out my gun and said, Can't do that, mate. Or should I say Mike? He instantly dropped the cane, took off the mask, and asked, How did you figure it out? And I said, Pure deduction. I found out about the party, your background, and your engineering smarts. Plus that car. It has your name on the front. Really? So it does. I'm sorry what happened to you. They told you? Already, the remaining four were petrified. But as we were talking, as he was explaining everything that happened, I didn't see what was happening behind. He had a Molotov alcohol bottle. He then threw it. I then dodged. What happened was it ended up burning two teens alive. I quickly managed to run out with the two remaining teens. Just as we were running out, two cops showed up. Two cops showed up, and already began a shooting spree. With him shooting at, with these two cops were killed. And they're at the police academy with me. They were friends. Uniform guys. They didn't deserve that, but sadly it happened. They ended up being killed in a shootout with the guy. After the shooting, he then couldn't find me. That was my opportunity. I sneaked up behind him and tackled him to the ground. It was really hard, as he had that cane and another gun. I then kicked the gun away, and the fight just continued. Eventually, the fighting led us to the lake. I then punched him, knocked him out, and he fell straight into the water. The end of my first case, and the end of his reign of terror. Poor kid. Out of everyone I've caught over the years, he's the most sympathetic one. Well, after his arrest, it was then revealed his backstory to the public and the school itself. As a result, the administration was replaced. The teens were expelled and were charged with every crime in the book: drugs, sexual assault. Most of the teens' lives were ruined, including the two survivors. They may have not been killed, but they might as well be. There was no way they could rebuild careers, most including the teachers. The case, well, I guess I don't know why, but Mike for some reason had respect for me, probably because I saved his life, but mostly because, despite the fact all the killing he did, I did show some sympathy for the guy. He pleaded guilty and accepted his punishment, unlike the others who always tried to deny their innocence. After that, despite the fact he was 17, but mostly because just how corrupt this system is in this damn city, he was given life imprisonment at Hard Time Penitentiary. Though rumors is he might be transferred to some, facility, something called Hillbrook. Well, if it is a mental facility for the criminally insane, I really do hope it can help this kid. He really needs it. And what happened to his mother? Well, thanks to the press, she ended up hanging herself. It was probably a way to avoid charges of all the abuse she did to her son. My first case. Very graphic, very dark. The bodies I had seen in the crime scene I was at. Little did I know that I would be expecting more of this to come, and more cases to solve. Despite everything, I really do feel bad for that kid, but sometimes things just can't be helped. That's the end of another case. My first one yet. Another case closed, another criminal locked up. I'm Detective Jim Reid, Noire Reid, and I call this case closed. Join me next time for a new case.